Hello,
Hello,
I'm Joanne,
and I'm Steve.
and together we're Sodded,
We're retired. And today we're here to talk a little bit about our, I suppose it was the third day.
It was the second full day. I don't know how that.
It's a bit confusing. This.
It is.
Let's call it
confused.
the second full day of cruising.
Yes,
On the Glen Tarsan.
yes. This was my favourite day, actually.
Was it?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, okay. It wasn't mine. My
there's-
favourite days to come.
There was lots of shops involved.
Oh, Joanne and shops. I'm not going to go there.
Little one-off shops, I love them.
Yeah. Anyway, let's start at the beginning. We were moored overnight in Linnhe Marina, and we had a good night's sleep and woke to some reasonably good weather, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
And we then set off from Linnhe Marina and making our way towards the Isle of Mull. And if I remember rightly, the weather deteriorated quite quickly the nearer we got to Mull.
It started off nice, didn't it?
It really did. It started off beautifully. And then it got really choppy.
Kind of thought, great, and then, but no.
Yeah. And we were on our way to a place called Duart Castle.
Yes.
Which is a castle at the bottom edge of the Isle of Mull. And we moored up a little way from Duart Castle.
Good, just to say that this was the trickiest tender, getting off the tender I had to do, because sometimes they can get in nearer, but this particular day with the tide and everything, they couldn't. And there were sort of big boulders and things that you had to get over, and they were quite slippy. But, you know, I did do it, and it was fine. Everybody helped everybody. But it was the trickiest one. But I did it, so, you know.
Yeah, the trickiest one for me was when we actually went to the Puffin Island, but we'll come on to that
another time.
Yeah. But no, we got the tender over to the island, and rather than mooring against a dockside, as we had done up to date, we actually went landing craft style onto the rocks and dropped the front down, and then we walked over the rocks.
I did think as we came in, I thought, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, you know. But anyway, I did it. So.
And then it was a bit of a trek up towards
it was uphill.
And also, if I remember rightly, it started spitting slightly with
rain.
It did,
and it started getting very windy, didn't it?
Yes, and it was a little bit slippy going up, but we managed it.
I had my walking pole with me, so dug it in and off I went.
Mm-hmm. And then we got up to the castle where there was an admission.
How much was it to get in? Can you remember?
I can't offhand.
I want to say it was about £5, but
it was something like that.
£5 each or something. So, but it was well worth it. It was beautiful inside, and also I should say that myself and a couple of other ladies. Not very good with stairs. So anyway, we asked the lady behind the ticket counter, and she came out and she opened another way for us to go in. So don't be put off if you're, you know,
not able to do a stone spiral staircase.
Yes, it's a stone spiral stair thing, and I don't like those anyway, apart from whether I could do it or not, because I really don't like heights and things. And they're fine until you meet somebody on the stairs. Were people coming down that staircase as well? Yeah. So I freak out. Actually, I really don't like it. So I was really, really pleased that there was a different entrance. So.
But then we all met up again on the next floor.
Yeah.
And were able to look around a number of exhibitions that were on display, which included everything from clothing, effectively the dining equipment, so lots of candelabra type things.
Beautiful silver, wasn't there? Lovely silver.
Very traditional Scottish silver with a combination of deer hoofs and silver combined to make, in this case, candelabras.
Also, a lot of these places we go to, castles and things, they're freezing cold, and this wasn't. It was really, had the heating on. It was lovely.
Yeah. I don't know if it had the heating on or if it was the walls were so thick.
No, it did have the heating on because I felt the radiator.
I'll tell you something. The other thing, when you went round this castle, when I went out on the roof, I don't think you came
No, I
with me
didn't.
at
I
that
didn't
time.
do that because
But
heights.
the thickness of the roof tiles, it was well over an inch thick.
Did you feel that?
Slate. You couldn't really, but it was quite incredible. You know how you look, and you got a couple of mils for slate these days on a roof. These were actually really thick pieces of slate.
If you think about it, there would have to be because of the position of where it was. You know.
Well, also I imagine
Weather.
it's it was built in the 18th century, so
You could get it. You could get to it by road. Actually, there's a big car park and everything.
but the manufacturing techniques back in the 18th century would not have probably allowed them to do tiles of the thicknesses or the thinness, shall I say, that they do them today. But no, it was really nice. It was probably about 3 stories high, and as you went up the castle steps, you got different exhibitions in different rooms. And then finally you could get up on the roof and you could walk all the way round the roof, and you got a great view over the loch, which actually I don't think it was a loch, actually I think it was the Sound of Mull, as it's called, and also over the fields and the road that came into the castle.
But you
itself.
didn't have to go up on the roof because you had beautiful views from all the windows as well.
And yeah.
So if you didn't want to do that, people who didn't want to do that, because I didn't do that. I don't like heights and stuff, so.
But that was lovely, and while I was up there I noticed that the tender was going back to the ship. Joanne had decided, I think, to walk slowly back at that time.
Yeah, by this time, I wasn't the only one. You know, we came out and slowly walked back because it was quite a steep path and took a while. Back to the tender, and the tender was there, and we went back to the boat. So I left you. And I didn't even tell you where I'd gone.
No.
You obviously saw me.
No, I didn't actually.
You
I
saw
just
the
saw the tender going
You
back
saw
and thinking,
people on it.
yeah, I couldn't see who they were, but I thought I ought to get down, otherwise I'll be in trouble. So I
He's
just...
always the last one, always.
Well, actually, I wasn't.
Yeah,
but,
actually, yes, you were very good on this holiday, but normally.
Yeah.
normally.
But made it back down to the pickup point, and again it was commando landing boat style as the tender came in and we got on it and then back to the ship. And from there we then set off up the Sound of Mull. And by the way, the little foot sounds are coming from our dog, Alfie.
We've probably said this before, he's deaf, so you can't say, stay or sit or anything like that because he can't hear you.
But he's
Takes after his owner.
Oh, thanks. But he's decided to move 3 foot to the right.
It's all right.
He's sat down.
He's just down here. He's just sat down. I think we're all right for a bit.
Mm-hmm. So we then left Duart Castle after lunch, I think it was, and we made our way up the Sound of Mull to Tobermory, which is the main town.
It was my favourite place.
On the Isle of Mull. And why is it your favourite place?
It had so many individual little shops. It was absolutely fantastic. I could have got really carried away, but I did curb myself. Mm-hmm. Really.
And that's one of the things that I quite liked. Every town centre that you go in is the same sort of shops.
It's not really town centre, is it? It's just a little town, but it was lovely. They had like Tibetan. They sold Tibetan wool and things and.
One of these free
else did
trade arrangements, and you could go in and look. But unfortunately, everything I was after, they didn't have in my size. But the prices were quite reasonable.
And I was looking for jewellery as normal.
As normal.
Long dangly earrings I love. And they didn't have any of those because I was hoping, because somebody we knew had got some the last time. But they didn't have any this time. So
we looked around.
Looked in all the
town.
shops.
I mean, first of all, it's really colourful, isn't it?
Beautiful, yes. And because you should say it's the town of Tobermory. There's a children's programme called Ballamory, is that right?
Ballamory, I think it is.
Ballamory, I thought it was.
Oh, okay. But
anyway,
we don't watch it.
But it is Tobermory, and we went. There was a lovely chocolate shop.
Oh, and, yeah, you did like the chocolates.
Handmade chocolates, and we were going to visit somebody on the way back, so we thought we'd buy them some chocolates, which we did, and so that was lovely.
And we also went into the shop that Jane MacDonald went into.
Yes, on her cruising with Jane MacDonald, did the Majestic Line.
Yeah.
And we went in there, and lots of people bought what she bought, which was an avocado peeler, and get the.
We
full
don't
thing.
have enough avocados to justify.
No, we do avocados, but I just slice around them and ping, and the stone comes out.
It's technical term.
Yeah, bing is a technical term. But I did manage to find in there a silicone scraper. It sounds a silicone scraper, and like when you've got your mixer out and you're mixing your cake mixture, and then you put it up again, and then it's got all the cake mixture on the attachment. So this is
it never happens to me.
A silicone thing, and it gets all the cake. It's like a comb, and it gets it all off.
Have you used it yet?
No.
Oh. When are you planning to use it?
I don't very often make cakes, but next time I make a cake.
Okay.
Might be a Christmas cake again. We have a video on that. Lots of alcohol in that one.
Don't mention
don't mention the alcohol. So yes, I bought that, and then we found.
You found a little jewellery
store, and my husband does like to buy me earrings, don't you?
And she had a good assortment of different
types
of
I bought these.
jewellery.
I don't know if you can see them. There we go. I bought those there. So these are my Tobermory earrings, because I do love a dangly long earring, and the longer the better.
Yes.
And I bought a lobster silver coloured trivet for your pan or whatever.
I think it's aluminium actually.
Oh, is it? Okay.
That was quite nice, reasonably priced.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of interesting jewellery and silverware. Some of it was made on the premises, and
some wasn't.
Some wasn't. Some was obviously brought in. But nice to see. It was a good collection of different shops, wasn't it?
So we walked all the way along, and then we walked all the way back, and then we went to one of the hotels, and we had a drink, didn't we?
Yeah, you had a Coke, and
and you had a coffee.
I had a coffee.
So I don't drink hot drinks, never have.
But it was very nice, actually.
Yes, it was lovely.
We hadn't had a decent coffee since we'd been on the.
And most of the time while we were there, actually, it was sunny. But it did rain a couple of times. But everybody just walks around in waterproof trousers and waterproof, anorak type stuff, and waterproof rucksacks, which is what we had. So we were, we were well in with everybody else, really. So.
It's probably worth saying that actually coming into the town itself, as we came in on the tender boat, there was a waterfall, and there were various.
I found that interesting.
Carved ships.
Yes, so back in the 18th century, I think, was it 17th or 18th century? So the Royal Navy would come in with their ships, and they had markings on the wall. What were the markings now? I've forgotten.
Pictures of ships.
Pictures of ships. And if there was a picture of a ship by the waterfall, they knew that water was okay to drink, which is fascinating, I thought. So that was an interesting fact. Alan told us that, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, we enjoyed our time in Tobermory.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved Tobermory.
It
I'd go there
was
again, definitely.
a bit different to the other places that we have so far visited. In fact, actually what we visited moving on, it was very different location.
That was the only little town, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the only little town. But anyway, we'll show you a video of Duart Castle and Tobermory. Please enjoy. And if you fancy liking
and
subscribing, then please do. It all helps a little channel like ours.
Yes.
And ring that bell if you want to be notified when we release more content.
As was always the case, we hadn't been going that long. When the weather turned, it became stormy and blustery, but we still kept on, focused on Duart Castle. And as you can see, it didn't take that long before the weather was fine again. It was really amazing how the weather changed in such a short space of time in this area.
So everybody's welcome in the world.
Ah.
So I always say that. You come.
And it wasn't long before we dropped anchor and were back in the tender, heading to the mainland once again. In the far distance, we could see another boat from the Majestic Line. And it was getting into this cove where we found the feature on the tender boat where the front drops down, allowing you to go in almost landing boat style onto the pebbles and then walk across.
That's where I'm going. I need windscreen wipers. Oh, nice view.
And to one side of the approach to the castle was a little cafe, restroom and visitors centre, all very nice. So we went past the battery of cannons and up a small embankment to arrive at the ticket booth at the entrance to the castle. Tickets were £8 for adults and £4 for children. Through the gateway led us into a small courtyard. To one side of the courtyard was an open door which led us into the ground floor of the castle. There was an exhibition of how the kitchens would have been back in the days, including the scullery and various other aspects. So Duart Castle was built in the 13th century by the MacDougall clan and was then bequeathed a century later as part of a dowry. And this hole is the castle's well. And for some reason there was also a dungeon down there with its token prisoner. And the route to get to the first floor from the ground floor was via this stone spiral staircase. And next to the exits of the stone spiral staircase was the butler's pantry. And we followed the passage round and ended up in a room called, interestingly enough, the Winter Garden, with its superb views over the Sound of Mull. And on the back wall of the Winter Garden was a doorway that led into a small passage which went into the drawing room. It had a superb display of artefacts belonging to the family, from medals and also silver candelabras and dinnerware. On the right hand side you can see the entrance to the next stone staircase which led up to the second floor. So the next floor was mainly bedrooms. Each bedroom was laid out in the manner that it would have been back in the day, and also there were a number of exhibitions of clothing that the family would have worn at that time. And then finally it was up to the roof, which had a superb view overlooking the castle approach, as well as the Sound of Mull and outlying land. And the side of the castle was extensively wrapped in scaffold as a result of the significant renovations that were going on to bring this castle back to its prime. So I don't think it's really possible to see on the video, but the slate tiles on these roofs were about 1 inch thick, which is massive compared to what they are these days. And as you can see, navigating the spiral staircase is not probably for the faint-hearted. And I then spotted the tender from the window as it came over and thought I'd better head back to base. So having got to the entrance of the castle, I could see that the tender had made its first pick-up. I couldn't see who's on the craft, but I guessed that if I didn't get a move on, I was likely to be in trouble. As we got towards Tobermory, guess what? It started to drizzle again. So we spotted this waterfall from the boat, but it was on the tender on the way in that Alan explained that the waterfall had a number of carvings of ships by the side, which is where sailors had confirmed that the water was fit for drinking and drew a picture of their ship to signify that. As the ideal number of cruisers on the tender was 5, I took the first tender and Joanne would follow up in the second tender. Time the tender dropped us off, gone back to the boat and then picked up the next set of cruisers, it was probably 20 minutes. The town, even in this dull and slightly overcast weather, looked absolutely fantastic with its multicoloured buildings. And it was from this distillery that I tasted the Tobermory gin on our first night in Oban at the Manor House.
A little gift for I don't want to say on camera.
For Molly?
No.
For who?
And so we visited the chocolate shop, which was a one-off store selling handmade chocolates. They looked really nice and they were equally good to taste. one of the things we loved about Tobermory was all of the one-off stores, whether it was the Tobermory jewellery store selling localised jewellery and some bought-in products, or whether it was the Island Craft store selling a variety of crafts. We loved them all. So this is the store where Jane MacDonald got her famed avocado peeler. A treasure trove of hardware. It had all the items that you never knew you needed, including, as Joanne found, a silicone cake whisk cleaner. So it was about this time that the weather took another turn and we started to get some drizzle. Discretion being the better part of valour, we decided the best thing to do was to pop into one of the local hotels. I had a coffee and Joanne had a Diet Coke. And that ends our vlog for our visit to Duart Castle and Tobermory. Our day started at the Linnhe Marina and we went south to Duart Castle before turning west, going up the Sound of Mull to get to Tobermory, where we anchored for the day and also for overnight. See you in the next vlog.